Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be painting up this Plague Marine for the Death Guard. Starting off with Death World Forest. Just going to be applying 2 liberal coats of this over a black undercoat. Alternatively, you can get this in a spray can. I chose not to, as I was only painting this one singular mini and could not justify the expense. Now that the main base layer is done, I'm now going to be jumping in there with Iron Warriors to tackle all of the metallic trim pieces that I'm going through and selecting now. There's lots of chains and iconography across this mini. Again, it's entirely up to you what kind of colours you want to go for. I am leaving some of the parts which I'll be using brass for later. Now with Wraithbone, I go through and pick out all of the fleshy parts across the mini. His face, the tentacles, the weird monstrous mouth that's grown and burst through his abdomen. Now turning to my oldest paint in my collection, Xandri Dust. Going through here, just picking out all the bone areas protruding from the armor, the fingertips on his gauntlet, and any other bone areas across the mini. And now with Balthazar Gold, I'm going to go through and pick out all of the brass dark gold trim areas. Now you'll notice here that I'm painting over a light brown color. I went through earlier and just picked out all of these areas with that brown, as I just want to see how it would react painting over this brown rather than straight over the black, and I do believe it helped a lot. And now with Volupus Pink, I'm going through picking out all of the tentacle little squiggly areas over the mini. Next I went over all of the flesh with Slaanesh Grey. This step is not necessary, as I just use this because it has a kind of purple undertone. I'm going to be using Druchii Violet later anyway. Now I'm using Agrax Earthshade. Using this one here to go over all of the bone areas of the mini, as well as all of the green armor that we've already established. As you can see by this as well, I'm putting it everywhere. Apart from the skin and the tentacles, I'm just slapping it all over the place. I don't care about pooling or anything like that. The dirtier it looks, the better. And now with Druchii Violet, I'm going over all of the skin areas with this. Really want that in the recesses to have this deep purple colour, so when we go over it later with different skin tones, it's going to make it look quite sickly and diseased. I didn't have any Nuln oil left, so I've made my own black wash here. Which is what I'm applying over the chainmail areas and any of the silver metallic areas on the figure. And now with Lead Belcher, I'm just going to make my way around those silver areas once that wash is dried and just pick out a few of the edges just to sharpen those up and bring out some crisp detail. With Slaanesh Grey, now going back through once again to the flesh areas where we're just going to be picking out more of the prominent areas here, leaving a lot of that Druchii Violet in all of the recesses if possible. The next layer you want to grab is some Pallid Witch Flesh. Going over the face, picking up the most prominent highlights now, the nose, the brows, forehead, the fleshy jowls on his cheeks, and then of course the mouth on his torso. Now with our base green of Deathworld Forest, going back through and just stippling this over more of the high areas of the armour. We don't want to go over all of the dark recesses and lose all that depth and colour contrast that we developed from the wash. Now I'm going to start highlighting some of the bone areas over the mini, so you do not need to use the colour I'm using. You can go for whatever your preferred recipe is for bone colours, but just making our way through, picking those out, working our way up the sharper points of the bone, along with the nails as well. Then with a 50-50 mixture of Xandri dust and XV88, making my way again, just doing less than we previously did on our last highlight round along the bones. And now with just XV88, I'm again going through, doing a little bit less than we did on the previous coat, just darken down those tips. And now with Mornfang Brown watered down, doing the exact same thing yet again. We want it to be lighter at the base and darker at the tips of the bones and claws. Next up, Abaddon Black. This one here was very, very heavily diluted. Not quite a glaze, a little bit thicker, but up to yourself what kind of consistency you want there. Just really bring that home and bring back that aged look to this bone to give it that nice effect. Next up, Deathguard Green. Chosen to use this one for our next colour highlight along the armour. So again, we're just going through now, picking out those raised prominent areas, stippling our way across so we get a nice worn blended look. Now with Mechanicus Standard Grey, I just quickly make my way through and pick out the little bits of the undersuit that are present on the Mini. Next I've chosen just a sandy yellowy brown to pick out all of the teeth on the belly that's erupting from his torso. And now I've got a fluorescent green to pick out a few spots such as his eyes and the eyes on the skulls on his vambrace. Now, I like to think that with the powers surging through him from Grandpapa Nurgle, that he's got quite an etheric, deathly quality to him. Now with the fluorescent purple, going and attacking his weapon just to make all of these fusion coil areas really pop, and it gives some really cool contrast with the green as well. This next step is completely skippable. I just grabbed some streaking grime just to put into the pop marks and divots across his armor. Just add a bit of gunge. You could totally do this just with some standard washes. I just had it sitting there and decided I'd crack it out for this, but yeah, really don't need it. And now with Nihilakh Oxide, just going across the rivets on all the brass areas. Just picking these out, being fairly liberal with it, but not just slapping it all over the place willy-nilly. Because I'd completely forgotten about them, I've now grabbed some dark sand, gone around the Mini, picking out all of the little maggots around his body, along with all of the pustules on his flesh, the tendrils, tentacles, and the random ones that are growing from his armor. And now with Nurgle's Rot, I'm going through, covering up all of the little boils, pustules across the Mini. This just really drives home the look of pestilence and decay and rot that's set in on this Space Marine. Coming in next with Reichland Fleshshade, going over the little maggots that I'd forgotten about earlier. Now I've got Typhus Corrosion going around the heavy gun, just stippling this across very heavily in the deeper areas where I want to generate and create some rust. Also apply this onto the front and back of his chainmail. Once that typhus corrosion is dry, I'm going to hit this with stippling of Scrag Brown and another layer of Fire Dragon Bright. Home stretch now with Pink Horror. I'm going across all of the tentacles and tendrils, just drawing in some thin lines just to make them look a bit more alive. And the last step is just applying some Ard Coat. I'm putting this over all of the tentacles and pustules, and a little bit of vomit out of his mouth. This just makes everything look slimy, gross and alive. It looks really nice. So with this one done, this is yet another Traitor Legion done and dusted. Only a few more to go before I can finally then move on to doing Loyalist Marines. Obviously, if you've stayed this far, greatly appreciate it. Don't mind dropping a like or comment, even consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this.